All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our last day of our TAC conference. My name is Justin Solner. I'm the Assistant Director for Admission and Transfer Recruitment at Ursinus College. We are getting ready to have our last presentation, but please join us later today for a debrief of the conference. We'll talk about all the topics that we had discussed throughout the past couple of days today at around 3 p.m. I will ask that once the presenters have started to please mute all of your microphones and use the chat box for any questions you may have, and we will answer those at the end of the presentation. Also, as a reminder, this presentation will be recorded and will be uploaded to our TAC YouTube account for the soon future. So you can always reference this back at a later time. With that being said, I would like to introduce both Mark Cunningham and Sheridan Thurber from Carnegie Dartlet. Mark is the Executive Vice President for Partnerships and Operations, and Sheridan works as a Regional Director for the company. With that being said, I will turn it over to you both. Again, thank you guys all for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we're thrilled to be here with you guys today. I hope you've taken a lot from the conference, and I hope that this session is insightful for you as well. Obviously, Mark and I have been introduced, but I wanted to just take a moment to introduce you to Carnegie Dartlet so you know who you're spending kind of the next hour with, and give you a little bit of insight into how we think and who we are and how we serve our partners. So we're a full life cycle higher education solutions firm. So in addition to things like lead generation, research, strategy, creative, we take a lot of pride in saying that we're kind of we pioneered digital marketing for higher education. So our partners are often looking to us to help educate the industry on the latest and the greatest technologies. So hopefully, with that being said, we can share some really helpful insights with you all today on prospective transfer student search insights. And if Mark, you want to jump to the next slide, we can go over kind of what we're going to cover today. So we want to cover quite a few things today, starting with the current landscape. The world has certainly changed quite a bit for transfer recruitment. In addition to the NACAT guidelines being changed and schools obviously being able to recruit transfer students in a very different way than even a couple of years ago, the pandemic certainly had a lot to do with the changes that are recent, and in general, just student behaviors have changed so much over the past couple of years. And what this has done is it's certainly affected the way that we recruit and the way that we reconsider how we approach recruitment for transfers. So today we want to focus on making sure that you're influencing their mindsets. Are they aware of you and the opportunities that you can offer to them? And while you may be coming up as an answer for them, are you doing it so in a way that they can engage with you in the way that they're looking to? And if you want to progress, Mark, we can touch on one of the most significant areas and how we need to think about how we're reaching these students through search and social. So there's all sorts of different ways to engage students that are right for transfer. They're currently spending their time online, probably more than ever, and on mobile in a different way than they were before. We need to make sure that we're making them aware of our institutions and the opportunities that we do provide. And the way that they're making decisions has certainly changed. It's changed the way that we approach this than ever before. So what we can do is consider the vastness of the digital channels that are available to us to reach these prospective students. And when we think about your approach to search, I would encourage all of you to think about it a few steps prior to meaning your social impact and how you're staying in front of them. So how do you really make yourself part of the consideration? Are they aware of you? How are they thinking about you? What's their perception in the mind of your audiences, and how are they perceiving you and your brand? A lot of this can be accomplished in the digital channels before their search. So one of the most significant areas we cover this is through social media. And you can't think about how you respond to their search behaviors without first thinking about social channels. We want to influence their search behavior early and make them aware of who you are. They're certainly interested in what you have, and they need to be knowledgeable about the types of opportunities that you do offer, and make sure that they're in tune with the benefits that you can offer them on campus. And then what you do is get them to search for what you offer. So these social channels are really playing a huge role in leading them to that initial search behavior. What we do at Carnegie often is lean on data. We're kind of nerdy when it comes to research and data, and it really informs everything that we do and the information that we are often providing to our clients. And what we really want to understand is where they're spending their time and why. One of the resources that we lean on often is the Pew Research. And what this has allowed us to do is ensure that you're making informed decisions about your digital strategy. We can lean on this data and the insights that it provides from resources like Pew so that we're spending the time and the attention on the right audiences and the right channels so that we're really meeting them where they're spending their time and where they want to be communicated with. So, where are these audiences that we care about and that we want to reach? Obviously, when we're thinking about transfer specifically, we're looking at those 18 to 20-year-olds. So they're a little bit of an older audience than just general undergrad recruitment. We see a variety of time spent on platforms like YouTube, Facebook being a huge leader on as far as social channels go, Instagram, and even Snapchat still. So we can lean on this updated research to continue to inform us where we need to be meeting them. One thing we look at in addition to that is the consistency and the frequency of their usage. This is really important to consider when you're thinking about how you can meet them on those social channels. They're spending a significant amount of time on these channels multiple times a day, which you can obviously see through Facebook and Snapchat specifically. They're there often and frequently. And what we do often with this data for our partners to put it out into the world in a way that's easily digestible and that you all can take and kind of build it into your current digital strategies and your current enrollment strategies as a whole is what we'll do is we'll publish and produce this. And what we do often is create cheat sheets for digital for our partners so that you can kind of see the breakdown for a variety of different audiences. We can see where we've seen the most successful, where we've seen the most success in engaging these audiences. So obviously, audiences like transfer are very different than audiences like graduate. They're spending their times in completely different areas. And we want to be able to determine what channels are best used for things like branding, inquiries, etc. We have this full funnel thinking. We want to look at your target audience and understand what role each channel can play and at what point in the funnel so that we continue to engage with them and give them the appropriate call to action on the appropriate channel. So this cheat sheet is a great way to great point to reference when you're thinking about where to meet them and when to meet them there. One of our favorites is Facebook and Instagram. Facebook offers a variety of different options, starting with behavioral. With behavioral, what you're able to do is construct an audience. So you can kind of build out the audience that you're looking for. You have all sorts of different parameters to play with, and these are based on behaviors, interests, demographics, or even schools that they've previously expressed interest in. We also lean on retargeting a lot when we're thinking about transfer efforts. This is a very powerful conversion driver. So this might be people who have visited your website and then left, but it's important for us to stay in front of them. So retargeting is really great for capturing people who did search on transfer opportunities in the past. We also lean on lookalike quite a bit. This is a great option to expand your reach on Facebook and Instagram. If you have lists of inquiries or applicants or visitors to your site, what you can do is actually load them in, and it will find individuals who look like your existing list. And then lead generation. Lead generation's a bit unique in that it's not available to anyone under the age of 18. So it doesn't reach audiences under 18 years old, which is why it's perfect for transfer. So you can lean on it for transfer to accomplish some sort of call to action. It's kind of a tall ask if you ask a prospective student to take action, but lead gen will allow you to make this much more streamlined for them. So, assuming that they're in a Starbucks somewhere and they kind of see this ad come up, what it will allow you to do is auto-populate information, for example, so that it's easy for them to take that call to action and express their interest in you. That way, you're not necessarily asking them to click around on your website 5 or 6 times. Engagement's another excellent opportunity that Facebook offers. This is kind of comparable to email conflows, in that someone who opens an email might be communicated some differently than someone who doesn't. So you can kind of customize the communication based on who's engaging and who's not. And then list. This is something we've talked about in the transfer world for a couple of years now and how it's changed. It's a bit more limited in the world of transfer historically, but in the world of the NACAC changes, it has the opportunity to be a bit different than how it was in 2019 and how it is now. So what schools can now do is take lists of previous lists that didn't enroll and send ads to them. So a lot of schools, for example, will lean on PTK lists for this. And this is certainly something that, again, plays a role in today's world versus how we did things in 2019. So schools are certainly considering leaning on these lists a little bit differently than they previously did. And I would love to just toss it over to Mark quickly to touch base on Slate as it relates to lists specifically. He's had a lot of conversations with our partners at Underscore on how we can really utilize lists in the world of Slate.
Yeah, thanks. As Sheridan mentioned, obviously the whole kind of universe of leveraging lists and different types of audiences or whatever has changed quite a bit over the past couple of years. It's obviously kind of on a lot of the we've been watching, and it's on the school's shoulders in terms of how they might be thinking about how that impacts their approach to transfer. And and we've seen a variety of approaches taken where we look at things and evaluate things based on potential performance against whatever list it might be, and are they relevant? Is it right for digital marketing? Is that sort of thing. So we have a lot of kind of data and background and opinions on whether PTK lists or inquiry lists in the transfer universe are right and will work best for different types of digital targeting versus some of the approaches that can now be taken with past accepted student lists and things like that, and those have different kind of purposes and frankly probably recommended approaches when it comes to digital. So but as Sheridan mentioned, one of the things that is a game changer in the world of transfer student communication campaigns, list-based campaigns, is for those schools who are leaning on and have Slate as part of their institution CRM. And so we've now seen, and in particular with our recent merger with Underscore and the work that we're doing in partnership and collaboration with them, a lot of success with schools managing transfer communications or student search campaigns through their Slate instance, and the performance of those really being top notch, to include the ability to develop portals for that kind of one-stop shop destination for audiences that you're doing any of these communication campaigns to. The reason that this has relevance for this conversation today is everything that we've talked about so far and are continuing to talk about is about influencing behavior when it comes to search, right? Because whether you're getting out your brand and your institution's transfer opportunities in some way out in front of them on social, whether you're getting out in front of them through different communications campaigns via Slate or other CRM mechanisms, the goal is to get them thinking about your institution, about the opportunities that you have to provide, the answers that you might be able to provide as well. And so when they are taking some of those likely next steps on search, you're in their heads in a different way, and you're influencing their behaviors in a different way. And so that's what so much of this is about, to include communication campaigns through Slate, as well as whatever you might be accomplishing through social and other channels as well.
That's excellent. And one thing I wanted to mention too, as far as, we're talking about lists, one thing that you can leverage, actually, if you want to pop down to IP targeting, Mark, with the limitation of lists there's a couple different options you have. And while they're limited, if you do have them, one great way to reach students at the household level is through IP targeting. If they're coming from these community colleges, this might be a good tactic to explore specifically. And this is one of those tactics that we'll never kind of automatically recommend right off the bat or kind of say yes to when someone says, we definitely want to go after this. Because we want to know where people are spending their time first. We want to make sure that it's something that is a good fit for your institution. But if you do have those community college lists or PTK lists, this is likely that they're still at their home address. So you really have a good chance of getting in front of them and influencers, i.e. their parents. So it's certainly something worth exploring. And Mark, if you want to jump to video and social, this has certainly played a significant role, especially over the past year, but across all social platforms. Students now are going to different platforms for this video consumption, not just YouTube, though it is very significant. There's still this strong desire, especially with the way the world has changed over the past year, for this level of this experience to be consumed at a different level. Students want to know what campus is like, what your culture's like, how does it feel to be there? And video is a great option for you all to be able to communicate that to them. It's obviously with a lack of opportunity, we've had to engage these students in person lately. We certainly want to give them this opportunity to experience your community through videos that can create this really powerful connection. So geofencing and mobile footprints is something we've had a lot of conversations about over the past year specifically. We've had mobile footprints recommended for community colleges versus geofencing historically. And another area that's changed is that geofencing, to give you guys a better idea of the difference here, geofencing is obviously, many of us are aware of this, where it draws a fence around your location. And it really enables you to capture that audience and serve ads to them while they're there at that location or after they've left. Mobile footprints are a little bit more unique in that it's combined with IP targeting and allows you to capture audiences in the locations that you've defined and then follow them home through their IP address. So you're able to connect with students and parents, decision makers in a variety of ways. This is something that's a little bit more unique to Carnegie specifically, but it's a great opportunity to ensure that you're staying in front of them and that you're staying not only in front of the student, but in front of the top influencers in their lives. When you're considering mobile footprints or geofencing, timing and circumstance is certainly something to consider. Now at this point in the year, it's probably not the best tactic to execute. So you have so many other options on how to capture these students and stay in front of them and influence their behaviors. We often get asked if we can geofence other institutions for transfer purposes. And the answer is yes, you could, but we certainly don't recommend it because you would be spending quite a bit of your resources and your funds on advertising possibly to an irrelevant audience, where you might be spending a lot of those dollars to target and think about the small audience that would give you access to. There's certainly kind of better ways to stay in front of those audiences and spend your funds. So I'd love to kick it over to Mark now to talk how we can influence search behavior.
Thanks, Sheridan. And I'll kind of say in the middle of the presentation here, whatever, just so excited to be part of the TAC conference. Again, obviously last year was unique, and but I've been at and presented at TAC conference for a number of years in the past, and really just so enjoy the association and the collaboration and the work involved. So just so excited to be a part of this virtual conference this week again. So thank you for having us. As Sheridan was mentioning and what we covered before, and what she said at the beginning about as we think about the world of online search, it's so critical to think about the steps before that, right? Because when we consider that question of are you the answer, there's a variety of ways to be thinking about what that means, right? We don't literally mean when we say that are they searching for your institution and transfer, and does your institution's name come up as that specific answer? What we're talking about is as prospective transfer students are going to one of the most likely first places they go in their evaluation and research, which is Google, and they're searching in a variety of ways at a variety of stages of their journey. Are you the potential answer that's coming up and or that they're choosing, right? And so that could be that they're asking about certain things around credits transferring, or just good transfer schools in my space or back home and things like that. It could be that they're searching specifically on your brand. And all those results that come up are things that we want to be able to influence so that you're the right answer for them and that they're choosing you as well, right? So when we talk about your presence on social media, when we talk about getting in front of them through communication campaigns or IP targeting or things like that, that helps to influence that path and decision making and searching and answering, right? They are more apt to ask certain types of questions because they've been exposed to certain types of messaging with or without your brand in mind. They're potentially more subconsciously likely to click on your result versus another because they've had some of that exposure that they might not even be directly thinking about from some of the advertising and or communication campaigns that are happening elsewhere. So that's why it's important to make sure that you're integrating some of these strategies and concepts to think about how you're accomplishing some of that in the right and relevant ways across those other digital channels to get ourselves here in the world of search in the right ways. So when we think about search, online search, and when prospective transfer students do have a question, they are going to Google to ask those questions. And the way that we can kind of optimize our presence and ensure that we are the right answers and influencers in those paths is through the two primary mechanisms of search engine marketing. One is pay-per-click and one is search engine optimization. So in 2021, there's not too much need to kind of define what those two are, but real quickly, pay-per-click is the paid advertising that happens in those search results in a variety of ways now, much different than it was even a year or two ago. And search engine optimization is the organic search results, which requires a completely different approach to it and has a completely different type of strategy to it. But when we think of the significance of what the role that these two entities play in the world of even just driving traffic to websites and influencing behavior. This is an overall marketing stat, not specific to higher ed, but it's a powerful one to think about, right? In 2020, the combination of organic and paid search is still as powerful as ever, with 68% of trackable website traffic coming from a combination of the two tactics. So over 2/3 of trackable website traffic in general is coming to websites through some form of search, right? And there's all different reasons that I may go to Google and type in certain types of keywords or whatever, and we're going to talk about some of that here. So thinking about pay-per-click, again, this is the paid campaigns and time-based campaigns that appear in different ways in Google search results on the search engine results page, or SERP. Right? And there's a variety of kind of distinct reasons why this is critically important in the world of being the answer for prospective transfer students, and that it distinctly plays a unique value in that process as well. So first and foremost, it can help to continue that common thread of capturing the interest generated from other efforts. Everything we've talked about so far in this session, right? So the billboard you have on the highway, the social media ad that you have on Facebook, the communication or email campaign that you're executing through Slate or some other CRM, that is to get them to be aware of, to be interested in, and to be engaging in what you have to offer as an institution, right? There's messaging in there that's got them thinking in a certain way. As much as we'd like to think they do, there's a high chance that that ad that you have on Facebook, they're not clicking directly through and spending that time and doing everything that they want you to. They are getting exposed to that ad, and then in that soon moment or at a later date, they are going to Google and typing in things that are a reflection of that ad. So as you have that consistent kind of, again, thread that that is able to be captured within PayPerClick, that's an enormous role that it plays. It enables you to make sure that you're staying consistent and capturing that interest from the other efforts that you are spending your dollars on. With PayPerClick, a little bit differently than at least as possible with SEO, making sure that you're highlighting and emphasizing time-specific opportunities is one of the key values of PayPerClick, right? So things like application deadline, information session, virtual open house, whatever it might be that is very time-specific, you can make sure that you're highlighting and emphasizing those in the right ways within PayPerClick as well. And then rotating out that messaging once those events have passed, right? So so that's a big benefit to PayPerClick. As much as we'd like to think they're not, our competition is oftentimes bidding on our brand and or bidding on some of the keywords, general keywords that that we might be also wanting to make sure we're focused on as well. So the better you're doing on owning your brand and or having the right strategy for the right transfer-oriented keywords with PayPerClick, the better you're going to do to box out your competition and protect against what they might be trying to accomplish. Obviously, a major goal with any sort of kind of digital strategy is to drive site traffic and conversions. PayPerClick is no different in the sense that it plays a major role in doing just that. So, you know, trackable, measurable data is able to be viewed and measured for driving that type of activity within PayPerClick as well. And then, similar to what I was saying about time-specific opportunities, with PayPerClick, you can adjust immediately to different things for today's climate, right? So obviously we have one of the most significant examples of that over the past 15 months, right? So schools were scrambling to ensure that they were representing themselves right, that they were delivering the right type of messaging to account for all that was happening and impacted by COVID, right? So how your campus was responding, the different types of opportunities that prospective students have to engage within that climate versus prior. With PayPerClick, you can change that in a heartbeat versus you know, some of the more kind of organic elements that need to be incorporated for SEO. So these are just some of the distinct kind of purposes, values, and approaches that that are important to think about when you're thinking about the role of PayPerClick. There's also a variety of approaches that need to be considered, in particular with transfer, as you think about kind of the general kind of campaign-oriented areas of focus, right? So we have kind of the general, as you see at the top there on the left, right? Undergrad transfer, PayPerClick general campaign, right? So that's a campaign that's set up to capture the intent and interest of the folks who are searching on and approaching Google for more kind of general questions that they have around transfer opportunities. The second kind of column of this campaign construction is location-based, right? So in the world of transfer in particular, there's a lot of searching that might happen for transfer opportunities based on or connected to location-specific focus, right? So in my area, in Boston, near me, that type of thing. So you need to make sure you have a dedicated campaign structure around location-based. And then owning your brand. So when people are searching on your brand within the world of PayPerClick, are you the answer that you want to be there, right? Are you protecting against your competition and having who might also be bidding on your brand's keywords? So making sure that you have a dedicated brand strategy as well. These three kind of work together in a successful transfer PayPerClick campaign. So if you at your campus are running any sort of PayPerClick campaigns, it's important to do that double check of do you have kind of these three primary areas accounted for. From a keyword strategy, and these certainly aren't complete lists, but these are examples of lists of some of the types of keywords strategies and leveraging some of the keyword research tools that are out there that fall into these different buckets of campaigns, right? So you have the general keywords that are associated with just those types of searches that might be them in the initial stages of their research, searching on some of the kind of general keywords and terminology. You have the location-based combination of keywords that might incorporate some of the things from the general piece, but now that start to incorporate some of the location-based things to make sure you're coming up in the right ways there and bidding on those keywords and phrases in the right ways. And then again, the branded piece. So, you know, XYZ University and transfer, those types of things are important to be incorporated as well. One other thing that is important both in the world of transfer, but we've also seen take its own shape within the world of COVID and the pandemic, and the ways that we need to make sure that we're responding and appearing in search results in the right ways, is ensuring that you have the right negative keyword strategy in there as well. So as you are constructing a pay-per-click campaign and you have all the right keywords that you want to appear as people are searching on, there's also keywords that people might be entering that you want to make sure that you're not appearing for, right? And you can see some of these here, right, with masters, cheapest, whatever it might be that you don't necessarily want your institution oriented towards when it comes to what transfer campaign strategy you might have. This is because you don't want to be in essence wasting your money on searches that are from prospective students that aren't looking for transfer opportunities, right? So if you're appearing in all sorts of searches that aren't relevant for transfer, and in particular, if they're clicking on those results, you are wasting money. So the right type of negative keyword strategy in there is just as important as having the right type of standard keyword strategy as well. So moving on or turning the page to the world of search engine optimization. Again, this is the making sure that you have the right type of presence in the organic search results. And so we go beyond the world of paid search and look at optimizing for your institution coming up in the right ways and focused on transfer for those organic search results. One of the primary areas that you need to be thinking about with SEO is content. So both in terms of user experience, and so if I'm searching on Google and you're coming up and you are the answer and you've gotten me to click through, and I go to whatever page it is that brings me to, it's critical for me to have the right type of user experience, that page is providing me with the information that I was seeking by clicking through that result, right? So user experience is imperative for the right type of content approach when it comes to SEO, but it also translates to Google's kind of deemed value for you as well. So getting your content right will have Google consider you to be the right type of answer and providing the right type of user experience, and they'll reward you for that in those search results as well. We do a lot of work in the sense of just doing some content evaluation and auditing to ensure that schools are doing what they need to be accomplishing the content-oriented things for both those purposes, search engine performance as well as user experience. And content translates over into some of the more kind of technical elements of things like metadata optimization. Metadata is literally the blurbs that are coming up in those search results and the titles or initial phrase that's coming up in those search results as well. So I type ABC University transfer opportunities, whatever it might be, and the search results that come up, the title there and the blurb or short description there is the metadata, and you can optimize towards that as well, and that factors into the content equation. One of the kind of most compelling stats that we need to be considering now, and this is different today than it was just a little while back, when we think about kind of user behavior in the world of Google search. Now, this is not as much the case within higher ed than it is in general, but it's an important stat for us to be thinking about, is that 49% of all Google searches result in no click. And so what do we mean by that? And what does that mean? So if you put yourself in the shoes of someone searching Google, whether you're searching for transfer opportunities or whether you're searching for your weekend getaway for the summer, you're going into Google and you're searching for different things. Could be well down the funnel and deep into the journey. It could be just that initial kind of research phase. But when I search Google, the real estate and the information that now is coming up in those search results is worlds different than it was before. And so many of those online searchers can now get the answers they feel they need just within that search engine results page without even feeling the need to click into the results. And so that's an important consideration when we think about putting ourselves in the shoes of those searchers, and when they are searching on different things on Google, and the amount of ownership that we have in a variety of ways in those search engine results, because there's now even a higher likelihood that they are not even going to click on any of the results. They're going to consider themselves to have gotten the answer just in that visual search engine results page without clicking through the different responses. So factoring this into our presence in search and our influence in search now needs to be a factor in the world of SEO. And a big reason for this is what's kind of termed as special SERP, or special search engine results page kind of features. If you consider the kind of what the search engine results page now looks like when you search for anything, it now has a variety of these types of things on it, right? So featured rich snippets, site links, it has Google My Business, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail, and Google Posts, right? So that's like your branded kind of presence over on the right side if you've accomplished what you need to and claimed your Google My Business profile. And that needs to be claimed and optimized in an SEO oriented way, just like your website. But if you get it right and someone searches on your brand or certain types of things within your location, you could be that main answer that appears there for Google My Business. We now see things, and there's a need to optimize for you being one of the options when Google says, oh, you asked about this. Well, people are also asking about this. That actually factors into SEO. You can optimize for appearing in those people also ask recommendations. Video results within the search engine results page, the discover feature, news box, the events that you might have that can be represented in when people are searching in certain types of ways can be represented right there in that search engine results page and can be optimized for. These are all different layers of the SEO equation that many of which that weren't there recently, but all of which can be individually optimized for within an SEO strategy. I mentioned Google My Business and Google Posts. So if you claim that Google My Business property and optimize it in the right ways, and in particular for transfer, and you've got that presence over in that branded presence over in the right side of those search engine results, one cool thing that's available in there is the ability to take advantage of Google Posts. So within Google My Business, you can do 7-day free Google Posts. And you can advertise a time-based opportunity that you might have there, whatever it might be. And we see this be a nice free added benefit that you can accomplish within an optimized Google My Business property, right? So, and this is just a quick example of the engagement that one Google My Business post saw a while back for transfer opportunities for this institution, right? It had over 8,000 views, 22 clicks. The people that were clicking on that spent quality time on the website. And again, this was a free 7-day post that they were able to do within that optimized experience. So taking advantage of some of these types of things are important factors to be considering when we think about SEO. So when we think about all of these opportunities that are available in special SERP, we're not going to leave you hanging. One of my colleagues, one of our SEO experts, actually published a blog on our site last month, which gives a whole bunch of tips, tricks, and actual things you can do to take advantage of each one of these special SERP results. It's literally a walkthrough and how-to on each one of those that you can consider, and some tips and tricks to make sure that you're optimizing towards those in some of the best ways possible. We're in a world of search, so rather than give you the URL for this blog, I'll just tell you to go to Google and type in Carnegie Dartlet special SERP, and you'll come to this blog or whatever for you or any of your colleagues that might be focused in that area, and a nice free resource for you to learn some ways to go about each of those things that I highlighted on the previous page. It would be impossible to talk about the world of digital or the world of search without spending a minute talking about mobile. It's no secret, should be no surprise, that we need to be thinking about any digital experience just as significantly through mobile as we do through desktop. Specific to search, this statistic is one that really stands out to me when we think about ensuring that we're accomplishing what we need to in search results. So 30% of pages that show up on the first page of desktop search results do not appear in the top 10 results on mobile, right? So I probably said this at one or more TAC presentations in past years, but the phrase to constantly be putting yourselves in the shoes of the prospective audiences that you are focused on, right? And when you do that, doing that both on desktop and mobile. We see so often that people will run through that exercise of putting themselves in the prospective transfer student shoes. They'll go on their desktop, they'll search for their brand, some of the relevant keywords. They'll see that they appear in some of the right ways. They'll consider themselves check, done, great, I'm happy, and move on. But if you don't also go through the process of ensuring that you are appearing in the right ways on mobile in those same ways, then you are missing a large portion of what needs to be accomplished. We now more than ever, prospective students certainly are spending their time on mobile, but they are also expecting to be able to accomplish virtually the full experience that they would on desktop on mobile devices as well. So when I search on mobile, are you appearing? When I click through those results, is it taking me to where I can consume in the right ways from a mobile perspective? In particular, if you are wanting me to do something, fill out a form, register for this, request information, whatever it might be, can I do that just as easily on mobile as I can on desktop? If not, sorry, you've lost me. So we need to be thinking about that, both your search results in mobile as well as that user experience in mobile, all the way through to those conversion points or calls to action, because that's simply the expectation now, and it has been for several years. Thankfully, Google, as always, provides a nice quick gut check. This is something that I always invite anyone sitting in any seat on campus to do a double check on. So you can just do mobile friendly test Google. If you search that or whatever, this website will come up for you. I did just a quick test here. This is collegeexpress.com. This is our lead generation service and website and portal that's for both prospective undergraduate as well as transfer audiences and grad and international. But I tested that, and thankfully it came through as mobile friendly. We did have a couple elements of page loading issues, which thankfully were not actual issues, but we passed the test with the mobile friendly test here. But I would invite you to enter in the URLs for some of your institutions and the transfer pages within your institution to take a look and see that according to Google, have you passed the mobile friendly test. If not, this website actually provides you with some of the resources and tips to take some of the steps that you would need to make sure that it is as mobile friendly as possible. So when we are considering search, and again, going back to kind of the whole purpose and beginning of this session, we're thinking about transfer student behavior and influencing that behavior when they are conducting searches and when they are potentially clicking on one result over another, right? So we've done some research actually on the grad side, which included audiences that were, of the age that were close to some of the transfer populations that we might be considering. And it was interesting to see and we asked them some questions about what might make you choose one result over another. And it was interesting that these were some of the themes that actually came up as well. And they translate over into the transfer universe as well. But those prospective graduate students were saying things like, when I am doing searches on Google, I want to ensure that that I'm getting the answers right there in the search results for the program, the program areas or areas of study that I'm most interested in, right? I'm oftentimes searching on whether or not this school even offers the areas of study that I'm looking to pursue. And so as we're thinking about the world of kind of choosing one search result over another, if you've got that relevant information around areas of study, that's going to make them more apt to click on your result versus another. brand versus unbranded, right? So whether I'm searching on an institution's brand and or recognize that brand plays a part in whether someone is more likely to click on one result or over another. It is not the end all be all. And actually, we've seen a lot of data that proves that out, where it is not solely based on name recognition, which thankfully for so many schools is helpful for us to know, that we can still make sure that we're influencing them choosing one result over another if we're simply providing them with the right type of answers around keywords and content, areas of study, that type of thing. But when we think about brand versus unbranded, that does go back to ensuring that you are owning your brand in the right ways in pay-per-click. It also goes back to and actually connects to the fourth bullet here. Whether or not you've accomplished some of that branding awareness in those other channels like social, through email campaigns. If they do have it in the front or back of their minds, your institution's name, if you've accomplished some of that branding and awareness, that it might be even subconscious through those channels like Facebook and Instagram, they're going to recognize you psychologically more as you come up in those search results in the right ways. And it's going to influence their likelihood to click on your result over another. Not whether or not you're some big brand name institution, but have you accomplished some of that brand recognition through a variety of channels? And are you approaching the right strategy when it comes to SEO or PPC to ensure that you're coming up and representing yourselves in the right ways that is consistent with the messaging or advertising that you may have been doing before? Mentioned a few different ways, keywords and content. In terms of choosing one result over another, we see a lot of data that shows that obviously if your result, regardless of the brand or not, is reflective of some of what they have asked in their Google question. So it's reflecting some of the keywords that they used. The content is speaking to answers to that actual question that they typed in. That influences their likelihood to click on your result versus another. So that again comes down to that keyword strategy and content strategy that is so important, marrying up with the transfer student behavior in the right ways. And then, as I mentioned, creating awareness and interest through the other channels, right? That will make them more likely, if they are aware of and or interested in you, or even the transfer conversation that you've instilled in their minds, that they are going to be more likely to choose your result over another. So when we think about the world of search, interestingly enough, one of the areas that is also very important for us to think about within search is video, and in particular YouTube. So right here we see 96% of online US teens are on YouTube. My oldest son turns 14 today, so a little bit younger than the audience that we're talking about, but I certainly can say he's one of the 96%, spending a lot of his time on YouTube. And even that slide that that Pew data that Sheridan had showed in terms of frequency throughout the day, I could go on and on about that with my now 14-year-old. But online US teens are spending tons of time on YouTube, and it's important to think about YouTube as a search engine, right? So in the same ways we've talked about Google, it's very important for us to think about your presence and strategy on YouTube. Sheridan was mentioning the role that video plays within social media in general, in particular over this past year. The prospective students are looking for a reflection of experience, and video helps to accomplish that, at least to some extent. Whether or not they want to see what it's like to be on campus, what it's like to be in a certain class, what actual students or alumni are saying, they're consuming that via video today. So having the right video strategy and presence in place is imperative today in different ways than it was before. But again, when we think about the world of search, if you've accomplished some of the branding and awareness through other channels, or you're just wanting to ensure that you're staying in front of or getting in front of students at the right parts of their journey, keep in mind that one of the places they are going to search is YouTube, potentially just as much as they are going to Google. So having your video content live on YouTube is essential for that visibility, right? So you do need to ensure that your YouTube account is set up and optimized properly. There's SEO approaches to YouTube, like I said, just like there is to your website and to Google search. And you need to ensure that not only is your YouTube account set up and optimized properly, but that your videos are optimized for search. So things like I was talking about before with like meta titles and descriptions, same thing with YouTube, right? So as you're posting videos, transfer-oriented videos, whatever it might be on YouTube, there's optimization that needs to happen there. You need to be thinking about how they will be coming up in search versus just if you place it there, they will come, right? So, so thinking about that is critical as well. There's other roles that YouTube now can play within the world of influencing or responding to search activity as well, right? So there's now you can do campaigns that are called, that Google calls custom intent audiences, right? So you can capture the interests and behaviors that may be demonstrated elsewhere through your advertising or video presence on YouTube as well. So you can construct campaigns on YouTube that actually are appearing to people that have searched for transfer oriented or your opportunities on Google. YouTube or Google owns YouTube, so no surprise that you can kind of connect those dots, right? So if I'm searching on Google for transfer opportunities in the Philadelphia area, if I've been on your website before on the transfer-oriented pages or whatever, custom intent audience campaigns can respond to that on YouTube. So while those 96% of teens or whatever portion of that is transfer-oriented audiences based on those behaviors are spending their time on YouTube, your advertising can appear to them in the right ways and with the transfer-oriented messaging that you're looking to accomplish. So one of the things that is happening more and more today, and this speaks to what I was talking about before with user experience on your website, right? So we live in the Amazon generation now. In particular with these younger audiences, right? So more and more, and this includes higher ed, when I am visiting your website as a prospective student, prospective transfer student, I'm now having a higher expectation that your website will respond to who I am, right? I don't want to have to, each time I visit your website, click through to the 6 different pages I need to get to take a next step. I've been to your website before. You should know who I am, even if I haven't told you that. That is more of the expectation now in the Amazon world that we live in. And obviously my reference there is that when I go to Amazon, it knows exactly who I am. It knows what I've looked at. It knows the things I've shown some intent around purchasing, et cetera, so that my experience with Amazon is one that's reflective of me and my behavior. That again is the expectation that we now need to cater to in the world of higher ed. And so more and more schools are doing just that, right? And so the good news is that there's kind of plug-inable, if that's a word, ways that you can make sure that your website is responsive. And we see a lot of campuses doing this with regards to transfer. So, so setting up your website to be responsive and personalized for that experience not only improves their experience, but it increases the performance and results that you will see in terms of conversions, right? So, so the example I would use is I'm someone who has clicked through a transfer Facebook ad campaign and come to your website. Can your website respond to the fact that I've done that? I've searched for transfer-oriented keywords in a variety of ways in Google. I've come to your website fresh on the .edu main homepage, and I've navigated around different pages that are transfer-oriented. Your website can know these things and it can respond to that and make sure that it's serving up content that's relevant to where I might be in terms of my interest and or steps I've taken in that process, and serve up content to me that will drive me to that next step. So that's both an expectation of these audiences as well as a value add for any type of approach you're taking to drive higher conversions as well. So the example we use here is just this institution promoting a transfer visit day as an example. So a certain type of audience that's visiting their website is dynamically served up this type of ads to that, so that they can be prompted to register for that today. Anyone that clicks on that and or actually goes through registering isn't still going to get that experience on their website. Again, it's personalized and knows that experience for you. But this all goes back to when I'm searching Google, when I'm clicking through those results, and I'm getting to your website, is it serving me up the answers that I need and the next steps that both I and you need as well? So the key factors for your presence and performance in search. When we think about the behaviors of these audiences, getting them to think about the opportunities that you provide, your institution and your brand name, those sorts of things. We want to think about a variety of things to make sure that you are the answers and accomplishing what you need to for search with what we've talked about today. So first and foremost, are you even present? And this again would be where I would go back to the put yourself in their shoes recommendation, right? So if I am a prospective transfer student that is searching Google for any sort of thing, transfer opportunities in a certain location, your institution's brand name, just generalized transfer-oriented keywords, language and terminology that might be reflective of advertising that's been done by you or other institutions. And I'm searching those types of things at the very beginning stages of my process or deep down in the funnel or the journey. Are you even there? I mean, that's, job one, right? So if you're not there, if you're not even in those results and you've put yourself in their shoes and done those results, what are the steps that you need to take to get there? I would argue that the immediate step would be get some pay-per-click activity happening so that you're buying you're renting the real estate quick that you need to or whatever, and then obviously ensuring that you're focused on owning the home and the organic results. That would take a little bit more time, right? Next, are you answering their questions? This is where we get to the performance in search. So are you present? Yes. But are you answering the questions that you need to? So again, as you're putting yourself in their shoes and you're seeing the results that come up, and great, check, you're there. But look at your result versus another, and are you providing the answers to those general or specific questions visibly right there and quickly and concisely right there in those search results is an important thing, because if not, they're not going to do number three. Do they have a reason to click, right? So great, you've provided the answer to that question. So that's one of the most important pieces. But did the result above or below it also answer that question? And so what would be the reason to click on your result versus the other? Think about that in a variety of ways. Differentiation. What have you done to differentiate yourself versus the result above or below it? That could be just some sort of benefit to getting to the website. It could be something that's time specific. It could be some offering of content or resource in that result. Whatever it might be, it could obviously be something very unique and authentic about the personality of your institution and how that might resonate with what it is that they're looking for. But giving them that reason to actually click through and get to your website and do what you want them to do and provide them with the information that they need is what will increase obviously your performance within the world of search, right? This is also where we think about that concept or that notion of half of searches today not even resulting in clicks, right? So you also want to consider your kind of presence and performance in all those search engine result features that we talked about, but also have you given them a reason to continue to take steps with you? Again, we might have the check marks on these first three things. Okay, I'm present, I'm answering the question. They've got a reason to click, great. Still continue that audit process. Click through that result and see where it is and confirm where it is that result is taking them. Oftentimes, people will stop at the first 1, 2, or 3 here, right? Okay, great, we're there, or whatever, and not actually take auditing the fact that if I actually click through that, that's providing an awful user experience. That's not providing them with the content that we know that they're in need of by that question that they asked, that they clicked into. And it's also not encouraging or asking them to take the next step that we need to them. We need to get their name. We need to be able to communicate with them further. So when we evaluate where are you taking them, we need to think about, okay, is it continuing to provide the information and answers that they were originally looking for based on that result? Is it doing so with a good user experience? Is the content organized and arranged in a way that's easy for them to consume that content? But potentially just as important is, are they able to do what you want to do on that page that it's taken them to, right? So that RFI form, that register for the event, how clear is it? Buried at the bottom? I have to scroll for 2 minutes to get there. Is it following me through as I scroll through right at the top and along the side? What's being accomplished there in terms of that destination that they've gone to when you take them there? And again, that then takes us to that final bullet there. Can they do what you want them to do, and can they do it easily? We want to be able to connect with them. We want to be able to continue the communication with them. You know, we live in a world of stealth. We live in a world of prospective students wanting to get answers, consume all the information that they want to, and make decisions that they want to make, oftentimes prior to connecting with you or telling you who they are. So ensuring that we're giving them a compelling reason to, and the easiness to do what you want them to do is an important evaluation in this process as well. So these are the critical pieces when we think about your presence and performance in search, and specifically when it comes to prospective transfer audiences, making sure you're there, you're answering their question, giving them a reason to click, auditing and confirming where it is that you're taking them, and ensuring that you're giving clear calls to actions or next steps so that you can make sure you're continuing to accomplish what it is with those audiences. That's a bit of an oversimplification of what it takes to be successful in the presence and performance in search, but I would argue that any and everyone sitting in any seat on a campus that's focused on transfer, admissions, marketing, whatever it might be, the technical digital marketing, the communications folks, whatever it might be, can think about these questions and evaluate each of these points and have an impact internally at your institution to explore how you can do some of these things better. If you walk through these in the shoes of a prospective student, no matter what seat that you sit in, you'll be able to get some real concrete information about how you're doing and what you potentially could do differently, that you in any seat that you sit in could take wherever you need to help make some impact for search. So we've walked through a variety of things today, a couple of these things that you've seen doses of. So Sheridan had mentioned, we saw the Pew data research that's certainly available online. It's great data to dig into on a regular basis to ensure that you're spending your efforts and strategy in the right channels and the right places. But she also referenced we constantly are publishing social media cheat sheets or guides that provide some of the best practices, some of the tips and tricks that we see across different social media channels. We do more focused types of kind of best practice sheets and resources, like you can see on the video front for story and snap ad best practices. So we're continually publishing cheat sheets, blogs, that sort of thing for some of those types of things. And then we also have, as an example, we talked a bit about Google My Business. We have some cheat sheets around like what you need to know about Google My Business, claiming that profile, taking advantage of that unique real estate and opportunity there. And this is just a snippet of all the kind of free resources we have available. I shared that blog earlier around the special SERP results. So bottom line, if you'd like any of these resources as follow-up, we certainly invite you. Put Sheridan's email address on here. You can ask her for any of those, and we can send over any of those, as well as examples of what we've seen work best in the world of transfer, search, and digital arenas as well. So with that, I think we are wrapped up. I see a few things in the chat, so I'll take a look in there. I don't do well monitoring that on the fly as we're talking through things here, so looks like we probably have some time to tackle questions that we might be able to, and if there's any in there that that makes sense for us to defer to someone else within our organization and get some answers to anyone specifically or the group as a whole, we can certainly do that. But I definitely thank everyone for their time and Sheridan, as well with what she covered here too.
Yeah, it looks like we just had some questions about the recording, Mark. But yeah, again, to Mark's point, if you all have any other follow-up questions, feel free to connect with either of us, and we'll ensure we can get your questions answered.
All right, so right now, if anyone does have any questions, you guys can go unmute and ask Mark or Sheridan any of your questions.
We've stunned them with silence.
We covered it all.
All right. So, well, if there's no question at all, I wanted to personally thank Mark and Sheridan for your presentation for today, and also would like to remind everyone that we have our networking sessions that is happening at 3 p.m. today. So we hope that everyone can be able to join us for today, and then we can be able to discuss about the takeaway for the conference sessions, as well as important ideas and options for the sake of learning from each other as transfer and counselors and moving forward. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and look forward to seeing you guys at the networking session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.